أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Hello everyone and welcome to the 15th week of Tadabbur on the Qur'an. Today we're going to have two chapters. Chapter 97 and chapter 103, Surah Al-Qadr and Surah Al-Asr. These are two small chapters that I prefer to have both of them together today. Then we can have the less than 1 hour for both of them. From this week, we will have two chapters each week. I will try to do not have 3 chapters. It will be too much for us, but I believe if we have 2 chapters in each week, then we can finish our semester with 12 weeks. So let's start with Surah Al-Qadr. Surah Al-Qadr, I believe that it has one paragraph. It has 5 verses, and those 5 verses are very well related together. And for that reason, we cannot divide it into 2 paragraphs. They're all talking about Laylatul Qadr, which means the night of decree. Let's start reading Surah Al-Qadr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the entirely beneficent, the ever merciful. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Indeed, we send that down on the night of decree. As I mentioned, this chapter is specifically talking about Laylatul Qadr, which means the night of decree. This is a specific night in Ramadan. Ramadan is a month in the lunar calendar that we do fasting. And there are also many specific deeds and praise on that month. And there is a specific night on that month, which is famous as Laylatul Qadr, or the night of decree. This is also known as the night of destiny. It's famous among Muslims that on that night, God made decision about the destiny of all creation, about the world of creation for the coming year, about all aspects of their life. If they're going to have a baby, if someone is going to marry it, find a job and stuff like that. God is going to make decision about their destiny, about the destiny of the world of creation for the one coming year. And then again, next year at the beginning of that, on that night, God will do the same for the whole year. And it's like the first day of the spring. The first day of the spring is like the beginning of the new seasonal year, and everything became alive again. And in the world of creation, the night of decree, or the Laylatul Qadr, is like that. It's like the first night of a year that God is going to make decision for all aspects of our life, the life of all creatures. This is in Ramadan, but we do not exactly which night. It is famous that is the 19th or 21st or 23rd of the Ramadan. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Imams did not determine exactly which night is Laylatul Qadr. It's famous among Muslims that is one of these nights, but they did not determine exactly which night, because they wanted to encourage us to do those deeds and praise and stay awake the whole night during these 3 nights, the 19th, 21st, and 23rd of the Ramadan. Also, another reason that is famous among Muslims is that all these 3 nights can be considered as the night of decree, but each of these nights is a specific step of the Laylatul Qadr. So we can say that Laylatul Qadr has different steps, and each of those steps is fulfilled in one of those nights, the 19th, 21st, and 23rd. This chapter is going to talk about that night, is going to tell us about the features of that night, and it's introducing the importance of that night. Before Islam and before this chapter, people did not know about Laylatul Qadr. There are many things, there are many knowledge that Quran told us. It's also famous in other religion. But Laylatul Qadr, or the night of decree, is specifically introduced in Islam. And God gave us this opportunity to use this night and to ask God for forgiveness, to have a better destiny for the coming year. So let's keep reading and being more familiar with this night. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. Indeed, we send that down on the night of degree. And na at the beginning of this verse, it was actually a na plus na. When they mixed together, it became a na, which means indeed we. About we in this verse, there are two interpretations. Why God said we instead of I. The first interpretation, it says, because God sent down the Quran through angels. So it is we, it means God and angels. So he should say we sent that down. This is acceptable. This is true because God sent down the Quran through angels. The other reason it is that they said that this is a royal we. And instead of saying I, God said we. And it's even common among us. For example, a manager or a director, when he is talking to his team, he can say, we did this, instead of saying, I did this. Now, both interpretations are acceptable because God sent down the Quran through the angels, and also he can say we instead of I as a royal we. So it says we sent that down, anzalna ho. That ho refers to Quran because we know that God sent down the Quran, and it's very clear. It's also in other chapters in Quran that God said we sent down the Quran. Also, when God is talking to the prophet through this chapter, exactly on that time, it's Quran, and it's the verses of Quran that is sending down. Okay, so ho or anzalna ho, that refers to the Quran. And it says, "Inna anzalnahu," we sent down the Quran on the night of decree, on the Laylatul Qadr. But we know that Quran was sent down during 23 years in different events and different situations. Sometimes several verses together were sent down, and sometimes one chapter was sent down. So what does it mean? It seems that Quran was sent down all in once in one specific night. Well, this is true. Actually, Quran was sent down in two different ways. One way was sending down the whole Quran as a concept, and the light of Quran was sent down to the Prophet whole in once as in a specific night. So this is one way of sending down the Quran. I have to notice you that it wasn't all of those verses and chapters. It was only the light of Quran and the concept of Quran that was sent down all in once in a specific night to the heart of their prophet. The second way of sending down the Quran was all of those verses and chapters in a specific event or in a specific situation. God sent down those in 23 years. The prophecy of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 23 years, and the whole Quran was sent down during those years in smaller pieces, actually, several verses together in a specific event, and then like next week another part, and then next month another part. It was like this. And another point that I want to mention, that the order that we have in our Quran is not the same order that God sent down those chapters. For example, the first chapter that got sent down was Surah Al-Alaq, which is not the first chapter in the Quran now. Why did that happen? Because God sent down those verses and chapter based on what was happening in the society, what people need. And if something specific happened on that society, God sent down some verses to solve that problem or answer those questions. And then the next part. And this is even among us when we want to write a book, like those people who are researcher, if they want to write a book, it's not like necessarily write the first chapter of that book at the beginning and then next chapter. When they do their research, when they are in contact with their students, they might work on the, like, for example, the 5th chapter at the beginning, because it's their needs, because it's because of the questions that the students have and stuff like that. Because of the many reasons, they may work on the, for example, 5th chapter or the 6th chapter at the beginning, and then they work on the 2nd chapter and then 3rd chapter. And then after having all of that chapters, they can put it in another order to make it more usable for the future students. So it's the same for Quran. God sent down those chapters based on what people need or based on their question. So again, this verse specifically is talking about sending down the Quran all in once as a light or as a concept to the heart of the Prophet on the night of decree. So what is the night of decree? Qadr means measuring or determining. It's actually talking about determining the destiny of all creature. And God make decision about all aspects of our life in one specific night for the coming year. If someone is gonna marry, having a baby, finding a job and stuff like that. Every tiny details about all creation. It's God make decision about it and sending down the decree about all of those actually aspect of our life. And then next verse, it says, وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. And what can make you know what the night of decree is? We are familiar with this kind of a sentences now. This is not actually a real question. This is a question to show the greatness of that specific night. And it's telling us that you will not know about that night. You have no information about that night until I let you know. I have to describe it for you. I have to tell you how important that night is. Next verse, continue describing this night, because God told us in the second verse that this is a huge night, this is a specific night, and you cannot know about it until I describe it for you. Then he start describing it. It says, Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alf shahr. The night of decree is better than 1,000 months. 1,000 months is almost like 83 years. And it's like a life of a old person, and it's like a long life. And this verse is telling us that this night is very valuable. And if you use this night in a beneficial way, you can have the benefits of a long life. And it seems that you have a long life, like 83 years, and whatever that you can get in that long life, in 83 years, you can have it in one night. What does it mean? It means that if you ask God for forgiveness, if you ask him to give you a good destiny in your life, if you ask him to guide you in his path and stuff like that, if you ask him for these things, these are very valuable. And if you use this night, it is like having a long life, and it's very valuable. And 1,000 months is actually a number that telling us that it's very valuable. And it doesn't mean that this is not more valuable than 2,000 months. or it's not more valuable than 500 months. No, it's just telling us that it's very valuable and it's like a long life. And if you use it, you can have the benefits of a long life. And then next verse keep telling us that what is happening on that night. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. The angels and the spirit descend therein by the permission of their Lord on every matter. The angel will descend on that specific night to do all of those commands and all of those orders, because this is the night of decree. They will descend. Also, the spirit will descend. What is the spirit? Ar-Ruh here. There is another verse in Quran that يسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي. People will ask you, O Prophet, that what is the spirit? Tell them that the spirit is the reality or of my command, the reality of my command. The spirit is the reality of every command that God sent down. For example, in another verse in Quran, it says whenever that God wants to do something, he only say kun fayakun. He only say be, and then that thing would be. I have to mention this, that God even don't say be. It's only a word to describe how he commands order. He only wanted, and then that thing would be immediately. And when God wants something to be, there would be a spirit in it. That spirit is the reality of that command. There is a command from God, and whenever that he wants something to be, he only say be, and he even don't say that. You have to notice this. He only commands that order, and then there would be spirit with that command to make it real. And this is the reality of that command. So on that night, on the night of decree, the angel and the spirit, which means the reality of all of those commands, will come with the angel on that night by the permission of their Lord, which means everything that is going to happen on that night, it's all by the permission of their Lord. They cannot do anything on their own way. They do everything that God let them to do. And it's about all aspects of our life. It's about the word of creation, min kull amr, which means on every matter. All of those orders and all of those commands is about all matters. Salamun here, hatta matla al-fajr. Peace it is until the rising of the dawn, which means everything that's happening on that night, all of those orders, all of those commands, they all descend in a peaceful way, in a safe way, which means evil cannot destroy it, cannot hurt any of those things. And it's about those commands. It means the night of the decree, whatever that God wants to do, it will be done in a safe way. This verse does not mean that there wouldn't be any car accident and there wouldn't be anything bad on that night. People can die on that night. There would be some car accident maybe on that night. And many of those things. Okay, so that night, this verse does not mean that nothing bad will happen to people on that night. It doesn't mean so. It just means the orders and those commands will descend in a peaceful way, in a safe way, and evil cannot corrupt it. These five verses together were all describing the night of decree. But there was a difference between the first verse with the others. The first verse was specifically talking about sending down the Qur'an. And it was like this night is honored by having the Qur'an on that night also. And this is a specific feature about the night and also the other feature. So this one is separately describing only about sending down the Quran, and then second verse is asking about وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ, what can make you know what the night of decree is, and then describing the other features of the night of the decree. There would be some questions about this, probably based on the questions that students on the other semesters asked me. I summarized all of those questions here, and I want to talk about all of them. After going through this question, if you have more question about the night of decree, then you can ask your question. Generally, these five verses we're talking about the night of decree, so we can say the reason that God sent down this chapter was describing this night, because people need to know about it. If we want to use this night, if we want to have the benefits of this night, we need someone to describe it for us. So God sent down this chapter to describe this night, to tell us what is the night of decree and tell us about the importance of it. So this chapter was giving the knowledge about the night of decree. And there is a question: was this night before Islam? Yes, there was the night of the decree. There was the night of decree before Islam, which means God every year made decision about our destiny on that specific night, but people didn't know about it. Okay, people didn't have information about it. It doesn't mean that there wasn't the night of decree before Islam. Before Islam, people had no information about it, but through this chapter and during the Islam era, people became familiar with the night of decree, and God gave us this opportunity to use this night. So the next question: where is the decree going? All of those decree, which verse 4 describe that the angels and the spirit descend therein. The angel and the spirit carrying all of those decree, and where are they going? Are they going to the desert, to the woodland, or to the mountain? Where are they going to stay during 1 year? In every era, there is a specific person on the earth who is like the top general in a army, and he is like we can say like the proxy of God on the earth, and he is actually like a link between God and people. For example, during Musa alayhi salam, it was Moses. During Jesus, it was Jesus. Between them, there were many prophets. In each specific time, there was one person who was like a top general in an army. And that person, like a top general, was a link between God and people. All of these decree and the angel and the spirit, they will descend to that person. For example, during the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was him. They will all descend to him, and during the year, they will go to do those specific responsibilities. For example, in an army, all of those equipments and weapons, they will all go to one person who is the responsible to save all of them, and then sending it to the different groups in different events and different specific time. And in each era, that top general is responsible for keeping them and save them. And in the specific time, they can go for their specific responsibilities. In this time, that top general is Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. And all of these decree and the angels and the spirit, they will descend to him. They stay with him. And during a year, they will go to do all of those different responsibilities. And earth cannot be lack of that top general in any era. From the beginning of our creation to the end of it, there would be always one specific person who is the top general, and he is the link between God and people on the earth. And earth cannot be empty of that specific person. So if I said that God made decision about our destiny, then how about our decision? What is the difference between decision and destiny? This is the next question that is very common among students. They ask it every year. So you said that God made this decision about us, and he made this destiny for us. Then how about us? How about my decision? There is no actually interference between these two. God make a destiny for me. It means he planned all of those possible options for me, and then I can choose among those possible options. If he put 5 options for my job, for example, then I can choose one of those 5 options. This is the part of my decision. I cannot have a 6th option because God made only 5 options in my destiny. Okay. He made this decision for me. He put 5 options about my job, and I can choose only one of them. That is my destiny, that I have to choose only one of those 5 options. I cannot have the 6th option, okay? But I can still make decision and I can choose one of them. It's about other aspect of our life also. There would be some options for me, like for example, to go for a class and be more familiar with the Quran and other other religions and stuff like that. God make this decision and provide some option for me as my destiny, and then I can choose one of them. So this is the difference between decision and destiny. The other important thing is about the joint between creation and legislation in this specific light, in this specific night. In this night, God made decision about the destiny, and this part is related to the world of creation. This is about the creators. This is about actually our life in this world. And on the other side, this is the night that God also sent down the Qur'an. This is about legislation. And there is a nice joint between both of them in this specific night. And it means if we want to have a good destiny, we can ask God to put us in the path of Quran, and we can use Quran to have that good destiny. And if we use Quran and if we follow all of those orders in Quran, then we can have a better destiny. How? As I mentioned, God will make decision to put like 5 options in my destiny, for example, for job or any other things. Are these 5 options only some random things, like God likes me more than the other one or stuff like that? No, it's not like that. Those decisions about our destiny is based on what we did in our past life, in the previous year. And based on whatever that we did and based on our capacity, God will give us that options and give us that destiny. And if I try to do righteous deeds, if I ask God for forgiveness, if I try to have a good lifestyle based on what God wants me to have, then I can have a better destiny in the coming year. And my capacity is like say like a food container. If you have a bigger food container, then God can give you more food on that. But when you have a smaller food container, how can He give you more food? Okay, this is just an example. This is not about food or container. No, this is just an example to make it clear. We can increase our capacity. We can increase our food container by doing righteous deed in our life, and then based on our capacity, God can give us a better destiny in the coming year. And in the night of decree, people usually stay awake, doing specific praise, reading Quran and holding the Quran on their head, which is a tradition to show God that we are willing to have a destiny based on Quran, and we want you to forgive us, to give us a new life. And it is very famous based on the narrations and based on the quotes from the imams and prophets that if people truly ask for forgiveness on that night, if they really think about whatever that they did in the past years, and if they are truly shameful of whatever that they did and they ask for forgiveness, and if they try to do not those things again, they are like a newborn baby on that night, very clean and innocent, like that newborn baby. And this is not easy to do. We cannot say forgiveness or tawbah is something just saying by mouth that God, I am shameful for whatever that I did, and I ask you for forgiveness. This is not only like this. We have to really think about what we did and ask for forgiveness and try to do not repeat them. And that situation, we can be like a newborn baby. And this is a huge opportunity. We may have many mistakes in our life because we didn't know about that. We didn't have enough knowledge, or many reasons. Now we can be clean again. Is there any opportunity? Yes, there is opportunity. And if you ask God for forgiveness, He will forgive us. And I have to mention that Laylatul Qadr, it is under Ramadan, but it can be every night of our life. It can be every week of our life, every Friday, every new moon. We can think about whatever that we did and ask God for forgiveness and try to do not repeat those bad things. And Laylatul Qadr, of course, it's a specific night on Ramadan, but it can be every night of our life. The concept of the night of decree can be every night. And every night we can think about whatever that we did and ask for forgiveness. This is everything that I want to know. The last point. The last point is that this night is honored by the Quran, because the Quran, the light of Quran and the concept of Quran was sent down to the heart of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this night is honored by that. And that is the reason that why God mentioned this point at the first verse. But I mentioned that there was the night of decree before Islam even, but we became familiar with it after Islam. So now if you have any question, please ask your questions. Then we can go for the conclusion of this chapter. Nothing, no question. Are you still connected?
Yeah, I'm still connected.
Okay, yes.
It was just you did a really, really good job, because I read some other things, and you pointed out everything that this other book that I got about Tadabbur itself was very interesting.
Okay, cool. Well, actually, this was questions that a student had on the other semester. So I tried to have all of those questions here together. Then I wanted to review all of them. So we wanted to answer 3 questions after each chapter. The first question, what was the reason that God sent down this chapter? People didn't have any knowledge about the night of decree. And this is a very important night. God sent down this chapter to describe this night and tell us about the importance of that night and give us this opportunity to use this night. This was the reason that God sent down the chapter. And the second reason, how God actually did it, how He described this night by all of these 5 verses. He described different aspects of this night. He told us this night is the night that was chosen by God to send down the Quran to the Prophet. And then he told us that this specific night is equal to almost a long life, like 80 years. And if you use it, you can have the benefits of a long life. And then he told us the angel and the spirit descend on that night to do their specific duty about all aspects of our life, and everything on that night is safe. All of these decrees are sent down in a safe way. And what was the target and what was the important point that God wants to take us to that point? To make us familiar with this night, expressing the importance and greatness of the night of decree and introducing it. Night of decree is the night of sending down the Quran. and it's better than 1,000 months. And in this night, angel and spirit descend, and it is safe from any interference by evils. So I'm going to stop the recording in this point. Then we can have the